Okay, better. Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Very good. Yes, very good.
Sir, thank you for doing this with us. We are extremely grateful to have you as our guest, and we really hope that everyone will be inspired by you and will learn something from you and your journey. And I hope that you also will enjoy this interview thing and will learn something from us or from this whole experience. So yeah, let's move ahead and I'll give whole interview thing to Abhishek and he'll going to take your interview. And after some time, I'll come back and do a question answer round. Okay. So over to you, Abhishek.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vibha, for that wonderful opening and wonderful activity. And hello, sir, again. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm so glad to meet you back and like dive into this interview and get to know about your experiences and your journey. And then let's start our interview. Let's make audience understand. Tell us a bit about you. Where are you from? And what do you do? Which hobby are you engaged with?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so yeah, hi everybody in the audience. Right, like I said, I'm excited to be here and thank you both. My name's Thomas Machowicz. I am engaged with photography, specifically documentary photography, and I also own a video production business that focuses and works mainly with higher education. So, community colleges, schools, and we create a lot of video content for that. But what I think we're mostly here to talk about today is photography, or at least the kind of documentary photography that I do. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, in the United States, which is in the middle of the desert. It's very, very, very hot here. Let me actually see what the conversion is because I don't know temperatures in Celsius. So let me see what the summers get up to here. Okay, so in the summer here in Phoenix, it can get up to 46 degrees Celsius, which is
Oh.
crazy, which is so hot. um, and and I think when most people think about the United States, they don't think about that. I certainly didn't think about that until I moved to Phoenix. So it's hot here. Um, Last year, and I think you've shared some of these photos on your story, last year during the Black Lives Matter protests that I'm sure you've heard about. That was happening here in Phoenix too, and people were out protesting when it was 46 degrees Celsius, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So some of the photos that you've shared are actually from that time when people are out working for change in that heat, which is dangerous. So that's where I am. That's where I live.
Lovely. That's very beautiful and very unique introduction I've ever heard. And surely it's very hot. And I have, I never knew that. I have always seen US as a cold place, but this is something different and new to me that there is also a hot place over there. And the images that you took from the Black Lives Matter, and these are from that hot climate. That's even more interesting. And yeah, we have seen Black Lives Matter, and one of my friend who is living in US, she was also doing her protest at that time, taking her kids from her university, having that protest. Yeah, let's dive into photography now. Like, how did your whole photography journey begin?
Sure. Okay, my whole photography journey began. So my earliest memory is that has to do with photography is my dad had this closet in our house, and it was underneath the stairs. So it was this very small closet. It had like one little light bulb in it. Graphic magazines, and they were from like in my memory they're from like the 70s and the 1980s and the 1990s. And when I was a kid, that was my first exposure to a world outside of the small town that I grew up in. And so I would spend a lot of time looking through these magazines and seeing the photography. I'm not sure how much of the stories I read, but I remember the photography. So that was my first experience with photography. And then, and I think it either like planted a seed or it sparked something inside of me. And maybe this is true for all people who grow up in a small town, is you're really curious about different things, how the world can look different. And that never really went away. But my desire to do photography did go away. When I was in high school, I would buy those like disposable cameras that come in the paper exterior, and I would just take pictures like the kind of pictures you take with your friends on a cell phone these days. Just nothing super special, just regular life stuff. But I really enjoyed it. And then I stopped doing those photos for like years. And then I got back into photography. I don't really know why. It was just one of those things that I felt like, oh, I'm interested in. I want to do some photography. I'm going to buy a camera. And it's the image that was in my head that I wanted to make for whatever reason was, you know, those images where somebody's holding something up to the camera. I mean, it's a very like commercial image, like somebody's holding up something to the camera and this is in focus and everything behind them is not in focus. I just thought that was so cool and I wanted to make that image. And so I bought a camera just to do that. But the more I started using the camera, the more I remembered, gosh, hey, I really enjoy making photos, so I'm going to keep doing it. Since then, it has really evolved as I've evolved and grown older. My photography has changed, of course. I'm not making images I'm trying not to replicate images now, is the thing. I'm trying to create new things, at least for myself.
Lovely, lovely. And I also wanted to know what was that incident when you got to know that I make a good picture, I click a good picture, like someone told you maybe, or you might have that reflection or realization that, okay, I am into photography and I want to do this.
Oh gosh. Did somebody ever say that? I'm not sure. I have a little bit different opinion on, is this photo good or is it bad? I don't like to think of photography in terms of this is good or this is bad or this is worthy or this is unworthy, because I think it's really subjective. So if you're looking at a photograph and you feel something, and I'm looking at a photograph and I feel something different, we can't really judge it based on this photo is best or this photo is not best. But people did give me encouragement and they said you're doing a good job, I think. I don't really remember listening to people about that, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure if there was one moment, but I enjoyed it, so I kept doing it.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I also wanted to know, like, when your whole journey started until now, what were some of your challenges that you faced while photography, or what were your achievements and highlights from your photography journey?
Sure. I was thinking about this last night, and there are like so many challenges with photography, like just technically speaking, learning how to use a camera, understanding how light works and understanding how to make a certain type of image, right? There are a lot of technical challenges to overcome and learn. And I learned all of that on YouTube. YouTube is an awesome resource. I mean, I pretty much learned how to run my entire business on YouTube as well. Like, I love the fact that you could log into a platform like that and learn something, which is why I'm so excited for the work that you all are doing, right? Like, you make education so much more accessible, and that's incredible because, like, I had to learn about the world in my dad's small closet from old National Geographic magazines, but now you can open up a computer or a cell phone or go to the library or somebody who has a computer and like instantly have access to all this stuff. So I love that. So just learning, I guess, how to make photos was one big challenge. But probably the biggest challenges for me, and this is where we might get a little bit away from photography in a roundabout way to talk about photography, because I think that a camera is a tool just like anything else, right? If you want to create a painting, you need paint, or you need something to put on a canvas, or you need something to use as a canvas, and those things are like instruments, like tools. But the way I've been using photography lately is like a tool to explore my curiosities about the world and to understand my own human experience and the experience of others. And so to do those things, the challenges aren't really with the camera, the challenges are within me on how to be a good person, or how to be a person who acts in line with my morals and values, how to listen to people, how to be kind. I would say that those are were the biggest challenges for me personally, and so that comes through in photography. The clicking the camera is just kind of like a method to get me there, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. And also with challenges, I would love to know, like, what was your biggest achievement? Like, one of them I know is you got featured into BBC. So what is like one day that you felt that you achieved so much today because of your work? What was that day and what was it?
I'm not sure. Like, achievement with photography kind of goes in that same category of, is it good or bad? And so I'm trying not to be attached to that. And so here's the other thing, is that in my case, photography, the documentary photography, I don't make money off of it, right? Like, it's a passion, it's a personal exploration, it's something that I do for the community also here in Phoenix. And although I would love to have my work published in larger magazines or in some of these places where there's a lot of views, I hope one day that happens, just so that the message in the photography can be seen by more people. So it was really cool that but that being said, it was cool that that one of my stories got featured in BBC, and and that felt like an accomplishment because it was something I tried to do. I wanted to make a story, I wanted to get it published. But I'll tell you, once it was published, I was like, who has even seen this? Like, my life didn't change at all, you know? It was just kind of like, it exists on a website somewhere, and they paid me a small amount of money for it, and that was nice. But the thing, I guess, that has made me the most excited is in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement and protests that were happening here in Phoenix. Those photos have been used by our community and people have told me that it has kept them motivated, that it's like boosted morale. And so that feels really good, because sometimes I wonder, like, you put your energy into something and then put it out into the world and wonder, like, is it making a difference? Does it matter at all? And hearing that it has mattered to some people, even just a few people, is really nice.
Yeah, yeah. And just I want to take one moment and tell our audience that if you are feeling resonated with our guests and if you feel connected or something, you can surely use the hearts button to show us that resonance. And you can also share how are you feeling or any comments on the comment section. Like Sushmita Didi saying, ha ha ha, and she is resonating with our guest. And just adding to this, what our guest said right now, like you were thinking how did your photograph make a difference? And here I want to ask you the same question, like what is your major learnings? What are major learnings? For example, you just said that you think about is my photography making a difference? That is a learning that we can take up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, it actually makes me feel good to be on this call with you, because this is indirectly, right, like the photography I'm doing making a difference. Your organization clearly makes a difference. You work so hard at it. And so it just reminds me that sometimes it's not about the actual photo itself that has the direct impact, but it is the act of doing photography and talking about photography that can put me in a place to speak with you wonderful people and make a difference, help you make a difference. So,
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
tell me
yeah.
your question again.
What is your major learning from your whole photography journey?
Okay, yeah, my major learning. Okay, again, this is one of those learnings that has nothing to do with photography at all. So I'm going to tell you that one. But part of my story and part of my journey is getting sober. And so in this process of getting sober, I faced and continue to face a lot of the things that were causing me pain in my life that I wasn't coping with well. So when, people have a lot of different views about addiction, but if somebody is addicted to something, it's because they are using it as a tool or as a coping mechanism to deal with unbearable pain, something they don't know how to deal with any other way. And that has been the biggest challenge in my life, period. And also in doing so, like facing the pain and healing that pain has made me more genuine, right? More myself, because I wasn't burying these things like that I was doing that didn't align with my morals and values. I would do it, feel guilty. This is a big part of any addiction. If somebody does something, they feel guilty, they shove it down, and then they do the thing they're addicted to because they want to feel good again. And so it's like this cycle. But and I didn't do this on my own. I did this with the help of my ex-partner and a counselor, a therapist, and meditation and a hypnotherapist, right? It's not something I just woke up one day and said, I'm going to work on this. But in the process of working on it, I was able to do the things that align with me personally, and stop doing the things that didn't align. And so, like I said, with photography being a tool, is, now that I'm doing things that that align with me and feel good, like I feel like my photography has become an extension of that. And so if I do anything good or moral or just or helpful for the world with photography, it's only because I helped myself and had help helping myself. And so that's been the biggest challenge. It comes through in photography just because it comes through in everything in life. So it's not something I did specifically for photography, but I mention it because, like, no matter, it doesn't have to be addiction, it can be anything, but like when we're experiencing pain and suffering and this inability to like cope and process with anything in our world, it can hold back creativity, it can hold back feeling good, right? It contributes to feeling depressed, it contributes to getting into a cycle of not doing things that are good for yourself. And so facing that pain and having somebody to help you through it unlocks this creativity and joy and all these other things that make whatever your creative pursuit is possible, more possible.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to say that this takes courage to share. And I just want to thank you for sharing that out. And I also want to tell our audience that if you can surely use the features like hearts and comments to resonate with us and share your thoughts with us. And also just letting you know that we have a question answer session at the end after this interview to take up all your questions. So if you have any questions, you can see a question mark at the right hand side corner. Just click it and type out your question and we will be able to take it up after the interview. Yeah, let's move to the next question. What are some of the things you hope that you should have known at the beginning of your journey, and or some tips you would like to share with our interns?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, there's so many things in photography, right? There's like the technical knowledge of how to work a camera. There's like how to tell a story, how to talk to people that you're photographing. And then there's the professional side of it too, right? Like how do you make money doing photography? How do you build a portfolio? So there's a lot of things to know. So is there something that would be, like, should we talk about being most helpful for your audience?
Okay, so we have interns who have started photography and they are doing photography. So you can tell our interns like where can they publish their photographies or where can they share their photographies? How can they get into contact with photographers, or how can we use photography to solve problems like Sushmita Didi asked?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I mean, okay, so this is like in every business, networking is so important, right? Just knowing people that they connect you with other people. And yeah, networking is an interesting term, but really it's just like sharing your work and yourself with people so that they know who you are and try to do that in a meaningful way. So I guess my first piece of advice is to just share your photography. If it's something that you want other people to see and you want to connect with them about, then just start putting it out there. And don't worry if it's like bad or if it's good. Like, just put it. That's probably like the biggest first step. There's even stuff that I have like now held back. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to share that for like whatever reason, you know. But you never know who's going to be interested in what. So, self-publishing to Instagram or some other social media platform is probably one of the easiest ways to do it. Of course, that puts it out there. Some people see it. The second way I would recommend is if there is an organization or a business or a person who you think that your photography, they might be interested in your photography, or if it's an organization that can use your type of photography, just email them or call them or go to their office and knock on the door and wear a mask and socially distance, but talk to them and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, I thought you might be interested. Are you interested? Let's just talk about it. And so that's my piece of advice. You have to do a lot of it. That's the other thing, is, you know, sharing your photography is not like you can just put it out there and hope. So if you really want people to know who you are, like, send it out to them. If they don't hear from them, wait a month, wait 2 months, send it to them again. Like, just continue doing it, and people will start to talk back to you. Here's actually, this is the best piece of advice. This is not my advice, this is something I heard from somebody else. But I love it because it really, like, it gives you the motivation. So let's say you as the pencilbricks intern want to bring a specific guest on this show, on an Instagram Live, or you want to bring guests, period. And people keep saying no. That's really discouraging. It doesn't look like people say no to you, but this is just a hypothetical situation. Is that you really want somebody to say yes. Well, if you knew that you had to wait for 25 people to say no until that 26th person said yes, you would get all of those no's as quickly as possible. If you knew that you only had to ask 25 people until somebody said yes, you'd say, hey, do you want to be on the show? I think you're perfect. No? Okay, thank you. Do you want to be on the show? I think you're perfect. No? Okay, thank you. I only have 23 more no's to get before I get to that yes. So I think that knowing that a yes is inevitable if you keep trying, like, the only thing that can happen is that you succeed. That's all there is the ability to succeed. So keep doing it until you do, because it's going to happen.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that advice. And how do you find him to join us? So Sushmita Didi sharing how this was actually Thomas's question. How do you find him to join us live? Okay.
Oh yeah, I did ask that. I wondered how you all found me.
True. Yeah, Sushmita Didi shared with us. That helps.
I'm turning down the slide.
Audience, just
I have like this huge. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you okay? Yeah.
I was just talking about nothing. I put up this big video light because I have this and then another interview thing later, and I'm just changing the brightness of it. Anyway.
No worries. Like, we are talking about interns and they would be choosing their careers soon. So we wanted to know, what are some career options that are available for photographers?
Yeah, there are so many career options available for photographers. So as you see from mine, it's documentary style photography, but what you don't see on there is that you don't see my commercial work, right? You don't see the photography I do of, like, happy college students standing here like this, smiling at the camera. You know, I do that stuff too. Less now than before, but I've certainly done a lot of it. And I've done building photography, and I've done portraits, and what else? Branding photography, a little bit of product photography. So one thing I think that if you're looking at photographers that you admire, just remember that, like, the photography they're showing you on Instagram or on their website is like what they want you to see. But most photographers do a ton of other types of other photography to pay the bills or pursue their passions or whatever it is. So just know that there's not like one path you have to go. Anyway, there are a lot of options. Um, Portrait photography is big here in the United States, and wedding photography, right? There are lots of people who make a living photographing weddings and doing portraits of like engagements and parties and couples and things like that. So that's one avenue. Another avenue is, right, like photojournalism, and I'm not a photojournalist, but I know some, and I think the trend is actually that people want to start building their own platforms, because when you work for somebody else, it's difficult sometimes to rely on, are they going to give me work, especially if you're freelancing, right? You're constantly looking for work, constantly selling yourself, you're constantly pitching ideas to people, and that's not just photojournalism, that's any business. So where was I going with this? Oh, so part of what people are doing these days is building your own platform. You had Darian Weir on here, right, the other day. So she and Haley have built their own platform with the Home Collective, and they've found funding, and they are telling the stories that they think are really meaningful and important. And they're doing that, you know, they built their own platform. So that's kind of like what's happening now, and a lot of people are doing that. So I would consider doing that. In doing that, you also have to learn about entrepreneurship, right? So programs like this probably teach you a lot about how to be an entrepreneur, get your business or personality out there, teach you the skills that you can learn that you actually need to run a business. Those things are super important. And then there's, if there's like a style of photography you like, fashion photography, architectural photography, there's kind of like a niche for everything. So it's hard to say like what should you do, what are the professional possibilities, because it's really about what you're interested in and then pursuing that. So it can feel like there aren't any opportunities out there, though, especially when you first start. It can be kind of difficult, but just know that they do exist, and the more you get those no's, the sooner you'll get a yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I can actually list down all the opportunities you shared: photojournalists, architecture, photography, then fashion photography, and so much more. And I just want to tell our audience that they are putting a lot of questions here. We are going to take this up after the interview, so make sure you wait till the end. We will take all of the questions. Let's move to the next question so that we can take those questions. How are you solving problems using photography? This is one of our favorite questions.
Yeah, this is like for me, this is like the hardest question, because I ask myself that every time I pick up a camera. I'll tell you one thing that I do almost every time as I'm going somewhere, if I'm photographing some event or something happening here in Phoenix. On my way there, or when I get there, I'll meditate and just ask my higher power to help me be a conduit for that story. So I'm constantly like asking myself, how can I solve a problem here? How can I do something that's good for the world or for the people that I'm collaborating with to make the photos? So it's a really good question, and I don't have a super solid answer for you, because it's another one of those things of like, how am I solving problems? Am I solving problems? Sometimes I feel really insecure and wonder if it's worth it or if I am doing anything. But I know that I am, and one of those ways is being here on this show to talk to you all about photography, and my hope is to inspire and educate others to pursue their passion, whether that's photography or something else. So that's a problem that I'm solving together with you, and I feel really thankful for that. I would say my one biggest mission is just to raise the consciousness of humanity, which is a really fancy way to say let people know that something exists, to like bring more awareness about things that are happening, or about an idea or about a feeling. And so when I do photography, I am thinking, is this going to raise awareness about something that aligns with me and I want to share with the world? And I think that I am doing that, because people have told me that they've learned things that they didn't know before about particular subjects. So that's the way I'm helping solve problems with my photography.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to highlight two things over here. The one, the line that you have on your Instagram bio as well, consciousness of humanity, if I'm correct. I love this line. And second is that I know that one problem you shared previously in answer is like Black Lives Matter. When you were sharing, you were taking those pictures, people came to you and said that those pictures are motivating them. This is also, you're creating that way to solve the problem of Black Lives Matter, and I think that is also problem solving that I want to highlight.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Thank you. And that's, that's the job of, or what so many photographers have done. And I think, especially as a white photographer, right? Like part of that has been educating myself, because it's new to me, to be perfectly honest with you. And so to create photos, but then also have them be used or create them with the intention of creating awareness around why people are in the street protesting police brutality, and letting those sort of helping to amplify the voices of Black people in Phoenix who are saying, this is how we feel, this is what's going on, and try as much as possible to like remove myself or my ego or my message from it, and let that be the message of other people. And I had thought about this earlier when you were asking what is one of the biggest challenges, or what's one of the biggest lessons. And when it comes to interacting with people and making photographs, learning when to shut up is really important. Right? So learning when to just to be quiet and make that experience, intentionally for yourself, make it about the other person and really listen, or the other people, and really listen and not judge. That's one of the other important things. That's not just about photography. Again, that's something that I try personally to do, is not judge somebody's goodness based on what they're doing or who they are, but instead listen with compassion. And that's really difficult, especially for me in like the middle of a crowd of Trump supporters who are not happy that I'm there photographing because they think that I'm fake news. It's very difficult and challenging, but it feels better to like not put yourself, not to dominate that interaction, or try to dominate that interaction, or think that you know the story and you have the answer, and so you're going to make the photo that tells that story. Like, that's not true. You're there I try to be there as a conduit. And yeah, that was a long answer to, I think, a few of the questions we've talked about, but there you go.
Yeah, no worries. But thank you so much in sharing again all your learnings. I just want to ask you a question which is based on our name of the series, which is, what do you think when we say that artists can save world problems?
Yeah, oh my
Solve
God,
world problems.
I get so inspired when you say that. Like, just that one thought that like artists can solve world problems is like, if you believe that, then you can solve world problems. Like, if you think that as an artist, or really more deeply or more basically, like as a human, as an engineer, as a computer coding tech developer person, somebody who makes tea, somebody who farms, somebody who raises sheep, somebody who is the CEO of an organization. Like, anyone can solve world problems. And it always takes creativity, because to solve a problem, you have to be creative, because you have to think of something that is not being done yet to make that problem go away. Otherwise, that problem wouldn't exist. If you didn't have to be creative, we could just say, yeah, 2 plus 2 is 4. This plus this equals no world hunger. We would have done it by now, maybe. I mean, those solutions actually do exist, but there's a whole lot more to that equation that people, that is difficult, right? It's not a simple equation to solve world hunger, but maybe you can solve part of that equation by bringing awareness to it. So I get very excited when you ask that question, and I think as a creative person, if you ask yourself that, then you will start to solve world problems, or you'll contribute to it.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing. And I really loved the way you have answered that question and the deep thought that you gave to this. And I can see people just giving a lot of hearts and resonating with you and appreciating that thought. And thank you so much for sharing. Exactly. Coming to the next question, which is, what do you think about problem solving, an essential skill for our youth?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, is like the only thing we do ever is solve problems, right? Like, you wake up in the morning, you're like, I'm hungry, what am I going to eat for breakfast? Sometimes it's that simple that you can just go to your refrigerator and grab something from it. Or sometimes it's more complicated, where you have to go to some place that is going to give you food for some people. And so, like, as humans, the only thing we really, not the only thing we really do, but one of the biggest things we do is solve problems, right? Like, we face these things that we need to get through, and somehow we do that. So, why was the question? Why is it important?
What do you think? What do you think about problem solving, an essential skill for our youth?
Okay, yeah, thank you. So yes, it is an essential skill, and there are so many tools to like learn how to work on it. This is another one. You guys ask such these like big questions that I don't really know how to to answer. But it is an essential skill. So if you know, you're part of the pencilbricks community, like, this community is going to give you tools to help you start to solve problems, or to continue to solve problems. And so reach out to as many resources as you can to get these skills to solve those problems. And it doesn't stop with pencilbricks, right? It doesn't stop with this IG live. It can be like going to YouTube and learning a new skill, going to school, going to university, learning about a trade, doing an apprenticeship with someone. Like, if you can find the person who is working on the problem that you want to solve, go learn from them.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to quickly ask my last question, so that all people who are waiting from 22 minutes for their question, we can take those up, which is, how do you assess your artifact, or how do you know that your artifact that you have created is the best? And what parameters do you look after?
Okay. Oh, look, in the comments. Also, I wanted to say thank you, everybody, for commenting. I love seeing comments on Instagram Live, because this is like, it's just part of what I love, is interacting with people. So for everybody who has sent a heart or said hi, thank you, and heart and hi. And actually, look here, buenos dias, Tommy, Jorge Delgado. Okay, so this is one of my friends. He and his wife run the Raw Society, and you should absolutely click on his name and remember it, because there's two things. He and his wife have built a platform as photographers to turn photography into their profession and to like build a business around it and make something bigger. So that's another really good example of somebody who's built their photography and gone sort of a different direction than the norm. And also they're solving problems, but I'll let you dig into them and find out more yourselves. Okay, so your question was, how do I assess an artifact, determine if it's the best? So you already know how I feel about saying if something is the best or not. So let me ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Problem Solvers, what other way can we ask that question where we're not talking about is this thing the best or not?
Interesting.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but yeah, let's think about it and let's just talk about it. I know we have questions to answer and a little bit of time left, so we'll do it quickly. But like,
So
how can we? Go ahead.
I was saying that it's not important actually, but actually, according to me, this is my personal perspective that we could have two sides of that. Just imagine, some people don't like to set parameters for them, and some do. Just imagine, for a person speaking for myself, when we have exact parameters, so we could know which kind of impacts that we are making in society, in other person life, in our work, and we could have continuous, we can take feedback from others if we are just imagine ki I'm doing a work and not succeeding in that, so I could know that ki this is the problem that I had, this is the thing that I did wrong, so I can improve this, and in future I can definitely improve that and succeed in that thing. So that's why according to me it's important to set parameters so we could know what we are doing.
Okay, you were breaking up a little bit, but I think hopefully you're not breaking up for everybody else. But I think I got the gist of what you were saying. You're saying, how can I look at it and improve on it if it's not the thing that I want it to be? Was that right?
No, actually, I was saying that personally, I feel like for me personally, it's important to set parameters to know how much I am growing, what I am learning, to keep on check in myself. Am I doing my best or I can do best? What impact I am making on this world? So that's why for me it's important to set parameters. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, so setting parameters and being able to say, like, if I do this, I am moving forward, right? And so now here's the next goal, and here's the next goal, and you can sort of evaluate if you're improving or if you're getting to your goal, right?
Yeah, reflection.
Okay, I will tell you that I am the worst person to ask this question to. I went to the, seriously, but here's an example, and I do have some advice, I can answer that. So I went to the Olympic Training Center for Judo. I spent a year and a half there learning Judo. I didn't want to go to the Olympics. I was not good enough at Judo. I was already too old. But when my coach asked me, he asked me in front of like everybody. He said, "What are your goals for learning Judo?" And I was like, I just want to, like, I just want to get as good at Judo as I can in the time that I'm here. So, I gave myself a year and I thought, like, let's just see how much better I can get. And he, like, shut me down in front of the whole dojo, in front of everybody. And he was like, this is a bad example of goal setting. So to improve my Judo, we put, like you're saying, parameters. Is how many days a week I was practicing, weightlifting goals, competition goals, how many tournaments was I going to do, how many times did I win, how many times did I lose. And I will tell you that gave me a huge amount of anxiety, and my Judo improved a lot, but it also, like, didn't work well for my head. So, but I do understand that that works well for other people. So, right, how can you set parameters to see if you're improving? And again, perhaps I'm not the best to advise this, but I personally rely on the people around me and having a mentor. So you have John Stanmeyer in next week, which I encourage everybody to tune into for, because he's incredible, and that's going to be an amazing interview. And so, but he's my mentor, and so I share my photography with him, and we talk about it, and a lot of the times, the advice he ends up giving me is like actually something to meditate on while I'm doing the photography. And so it isn't like, okay, go out and take 1 million pictures and then like look back and see which ones are good or not. Like, it's, for me, with the type of photography I do, it has more to do with like a spiritual understanding of myself, a cultural understanding of humans in general. So it's really hard for me to answer that question with like specific parameters. But if you love parameters, then find a mentor who can help you with that. It's the best advice I have.
Very, very interesting answer. And truly, that's a good advice that we have to find a mentor who will help us with our artifact. And moving to last question, so that we can take all the questions up. What is your last thought, or any last thought you want to share with us, with our interns?
I don't have any last thoughts. I think I've said it all.
Cool. Thank you so much for answering all my questions. And I quickly shared my floor with Vibha, and we can move on with Q&A session.
Okay. First of all, thank you, sir, for answering, and thank you, Abhishek, for facilitating that. It was really nice, listening to both of your conversations. Actually, till the time you are, presenting the question, I have one question for you from my side. So the time you were saying that about that you went to therapist, and you talked about how can you solve your life, and someone is addicted to make their life better. So I guess I can also resonate with that. So for me personally, dancing is something that a kind of meditation for me. So is photography also for you is kind of meditation?
Yes, it is. Yep. So there's this concept of, actually you can see this on my computer. Let me show you. This says living in flow. I'll find a better example. I'll keep talking because I have it right here. But so this was like a brand that my ex-partner and I had together. Living in flow is the name, but the concept comes from this idea of doing activities that put you in this flow state, like meditation or like dance. And this flow state is when you're doing something where time is just moving by so quickly, and yet at the same time almost in slow motion, and you feel totally immersed in that present moment. So yeah, what you're describing with dance, and sometimes that does, well, not sometimes, a lot of times that does happen to me with photography. But I'll actually tell you that most of the time it happens when I'm having conversations with people, and then I almost feel like my hands coming up and grabbing the camera and making an image, and then entering into this sort of like other activity, but feeling the flow in both of those. So yeah, that happens, and it's something that's everybody experiences and is fun to do.
Thank you, sir, for answering. Abhishek, can you present the question? Okay. So Shushmita Didi asks, do you use photography as a coping mechanism now?
Do I use photography as a coping mechanism now? Well, yes and no. Yes and no. So I know there are some photographers and some artists who are like really incredible at like working through their own thoughts and feelings about themselves through their photography. Uh, what's her name? I think it's Lawrence Philcom. Has been doing this story called Puberty, where she's documenting her transition from, I think, from male to female, like hormonal transition. And it is absolutely beautiful, and it's deep, and it's personal, and I don't do that, and I think I'd be terrible at it if I did. Well, terrible, that's another one of those judgment words, but it's not what I don't personally cope with those things through photography in that way. But I do use it to explore things and get comfortable with things that I don't know about. And sometimes it is to have like a fun experience, like the photography you see on my account about these sideshows, about these car shows. Those are really exciting to be at and hear tires squealing, and like the whole experience is an adrenaline rush. And so in photographing that, you know, I'm not just there to photograph it, I'm also there to have like a fun experience. And so yes, I do use it to cope, but it's not my most important tool. It's not the first thing I go to.
Thank you, sir, for answering. I hope that maybe your questions is answered. And yeah, on to the next question. A photo alone would be okay. So again, Didi asked, a photo alone would suffice, or it needs a description of it, as there could be different interpretations.
Yeah, for me, the description is really important because a lot of the time I'm documenting something that's like happening right now in Phoenix, and I want people to know about it. So if it's something that I don't think is communicated through the photo, I'd like to talk about. I think it's important to share something in the description that gives it more content. For documentary photography and for photojournalism, like that's always the thing to do, ethically speaking, because it puts your photograph into context. But there are lots of like artists, right, who create images and don't explain them, and it's totally left up to the viewer. So I think that has to do with your intention.
Thank you, sir, for again answering. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, thank you for answering. Yeah. So next question, and this is from Anavos Manti. I don't know I'm pronouncing that right or not. Um, Given the gravity of subjects you cover, how do you take care of your own mental health?
How do I take off my own what?
Take care of your own mental health.
Oh, how do I take care of my own mental health? Yeah, I take care of my own mental health with meditation. That's probably the biggest thing for me. I also see a therapist and have somebody to like talk things through, but also to help me process the emotions. So this is the biggest thing, is like, no matter what you're experiencing, is you experience these emotions with it, right? And if it's a painful emotion, sometimes that's difficult to work through on your own. Sometimes you don't even want to feel it, you just want that emotion to go away. But if you can find a safe place to feel that feeling and express that feeling, and process that feeling, whether that's therapy or meditation or dance or photography or whatever it is, find a healthy way to cope with that and do it. So people do it in lots of different ways, but I would say therapy, meditation, and movement. Sometimes I just like dance. I'm not like good at dancing, but I do it because it like helps me feel these things. So that is how I process and take care of my mental health. Oh, and also just like stopping. Like sometimes you just have to be like, no, I'm just gonna sleep. all weekend, or I'm going to sleep as much as I need to, or I'm going to go to bed early because my body needs to rest. So sleep is another big one for me.
Thank you, sir, for answering. And I can totally resonate that seeing a professional and therapist, it's really helpful to cope up with everything, and they make you fall in love with yourself again and again. So that's really good to go to therapist or counselor. Yeah, Abhishek, next question. Um, okay, so this is a question from Dipali, and she's asking, how did you started or thought to be a photographer?
How did I start what?
uh, how did you started to be a photographer?
How did I start to want to be one?
Am I not audible? Kya? Is my voice lagging?
Yeah, sorry, you're kind of like cutting in and out. Can you type it in the comments?
Abhishek, can you go ahead with that? I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, yeah. How did you started or thought to be a photographer? Ideally, you should
Okay.
able to see it on your screen.
Oh, maybe I can't see it. So I think it's how did I start to have the thought to be a photographer? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that was like we talked about earlier. I just when I was in high school, I was interested in it, and I grabbed those little disposable cameras and I just started making photos of me and my friends doing silly stuff. But of course, before that, I was inspired by the photos in National Geographic, and eventually later, I saw some images that I wanted to recreate and wondered, hey, that's cool, how do you do that? And just kept following that.
Thank you, sir, for answering. And
Yes,
how did
Vibha, we are done with all the questions.
So thank you, sir, for joining it. It was really, really great to have you here. And because of the way you were connecting everything to your life and giving us examples time to time. And yeah, so I really like that thing. So thank you for joining, and we are really, really grateful to have you on the board. And I hope that you also enjoyed, and we hope that our audience learned a lot of things from you. Thank you for joining, and thank you for doing this. And yeah, and now I was going to announce some information about our upcoming live. So if you want to leave, so you can.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me and letting me be a part of the work that you all do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you